The sun of Zyphora burned low across the horizon, turning the barren landscape into a sea of gold and red. The wind howled over jagged rocks, carrying with it the scent of metal and dust. Arinya staggered forward, each step heavier than the last. Her left leg was badly wounded, a deep gash leaking dark green blood that was foreign even to her. The battle that had torn through her world had left her like this, alone, bleeding, and unsure if she would survive the night. Her species had always valued knowledge over brute strength, but now knowledge was not enough. She needed help, and there was no one around to give it. The cities had been destroyed, her people scattered, and the battlefield behind her had become a graveyard. Broken machines and twisted metal littered the plains, the remnants of a conflict she had barely survived. She stumbled to a jagged rock to catch her breath. Her body ached in every joint, and the pain in her leg made her falter. She lowered her head and whispered to herself in a language no one else would hear, a language of memory and grief. "I will not fall here. I cannot. I must survive." Then she heard it, a low hum, steady and different, not the erratic noise of scavenger drones. It was alive. Her head snapped toward the sound, and she saw a figure moving carefully across the plain, stepping between the rocks, avoiding debris as though the ground belonged to him. The stranger was human. His skin was tanned and rough, his hair short and dark, eyes sharp and alert. He carried tools at his belt and a small pack slung over his shoulder. He moved with a confidence she had never seen in the scattered survivors of her own species. Arinya froze. Every instinct screamed for caution. Humans were rare visitors in this sector. Some were explorers, yes, but many were traders or soldiers, and many of those had no mercy for aliens. Her mind raced. Should she hide? Could she move? Her body was too weak to escape quickly. The human stopped a short distance from her. He tilted his head, scanning her with curious eyes. "Hey," he said in a tone that was calm but carried authority. "You okay?" Her vocal cords were dry, her strength fading. The human crouched, careful not to get too close. He placed a small device on the ground that emitted a soft blue light. Arinya recognized it instantly as a medical scanner. He was assessing her condition. His expression did not show fear, only concern. She wanted to flee, to hide, but she could not. Her body betrayed her. The human sighed softly and said, "All right, you're hurt bad, but I can help. Don't fight me." He set down a small bag and began removing supplies. He had bandages, a liquid that smelled medicinal, and a few compact tools designed for quick treatment. His hands worked efficiently, almost mechanically, yet there was warmth in the care he showed. "Hold still," he said gently. Arinya flinched as he touched her leg, cleaning the wound. She hissed, and he paused. "I know it hurts," he said. "But you need this if you're going to survive." The human worked quickly, binding her leg with clean strips and applying a healing gel that hissed softly against her wound. The pain dulled slightly, enough for her to breathe without choking. She did not know what to say. Her species relied on words, but words now failed her. He stepped back and studied her. "You'll be able to walk again soon," he said, more as reassurance to himself than her. "We just need to get you somewhere safe. We travel sectors, look for survivors, lost tech, things like that. Right now, you're my priority." She leaned heavily on him, each step a test of endurance. The landscape stretched endlessly, but Elias guided her carefully, moving toward a ridge that offered some cover. As they walked, Arinya noticed more about him. The human was careful but observant. He scanned the horizon constantly, his senses attuned to danger in a way that reminded her of trained soldiers, but with a difference. His vigilance carried empathy, not just calculation. He noticed when she stumbled, adjusted his pace, offered his arm without a word. For hours, they moved across the plain. The sun dipped lower, turning the sky into streaks of orange and violet. Night on Zyphora was harsh. Temperatures dropped quickly, and predators became active. Arinya shivered despite the painkillers the human had given her. "Don't worry," Elias said as he noticed her shaking. "We'll find shelter soon." As she ate, she watched him move. Every motion was efficient, deliberate, yet he did not rush. He checked their surroundings, adjusted the tent, and finally sat down across from her. "You've been through a lot," he said softly. "But you're going to be okay. You just have to trust me." But she felt something in him, something she had not felt in a long time: safety. Hours passed. The stars appeared, scattered across the sky like diamonds on black velvet. Arinya lay back against the tent wall, exhausted but strangely calm. She listened to the soft breathing of the human and felt a flicker of hope. Maybe survival was possible. Maybe there was more than just pain and loss. Elias noticed her closing her eyes, and for a moment he allowed himself a small smile. He had seen countless survivors in his travels, but there was something about her, something fragile yet unbroken, that compelled him to protect her. He did not know what her future held, but he would make sure she had won. The night was long, and Arinya drifted in and out of sleep. Each time she woke, she saw the human sitting quietly, always alert, always caring. In that vast, empty world, it was the first time she felt less alone. When the first light of dawn touched the horizon, painting the landscape in pale gold, Arinya opened her eyes. Elias was already awake, checking the surroundings, scanning the horizon. "Morning," he said simply. "We'll move soon." "You're stronger today." But Arinya no longer felt abandoned. She had found someone who believed in survival, in courage, in the value of life. She had found a human, and for the first time since the battle, she allowed herself to hope. The morning air on Zyphora was sharp and cold, cutting through Arinya's thin coverings like tiny blades. She tested her injured leg again, careful with every movement. Pain still shot through her muscles, but with Elia's help and the healing gel, she could take small steps. He noticed immediately. "You're improving," he said, his voice steady and calm. "Keep your weight on your good leg and let me support you. No rush." Now, with this human guiding her, she felt something unfamiliar, companionship, fragile but real. They moved carefully through the jagged landscape. Elias scanned constantly, adjusting their path to avoid unstable rocks and the areas where scavenger drones might hide. Despite the danger, he talked quietly as they walked. "My crew is back at the horizon," he said. "It's a small exploration ship. We usually check new sectors for survivors or lost technology. You're the first alien I've personally found out here." Maybe humans were different, maybe they were capable of more than she had imagined. The terrain was unforgiving. Jagged rocks jutted from the ground like broken teeth. Dust swirled in the wind, and the occasional roar in the distance reminded Arinya of predators that might be watching. She shivered, not just from cold, but from the vulnerability of being far from any help. Elias noticed. "Don't worry," he said. "We'll get somewhere safe soon. The horizon isn't far, and it's warm, you'll see." Watching him, she began to wonder if humans were not just strong, they were resilient in ways that went beyond the physical. By midday, the wind had picked up. Dust whipped across the plains, stinging Arinya's eyes and making each step harder. She stumbled on a loose rock, nearly falling. Elias caught her effortlessly. "You're pushing too hard," he said. "Let's rest for a moment. Just don't overdo it." "Why do you help me?" After a short rest, they continued their journey. The plains stretched endlessly, punctuated by the occasional jagged hill or the remains of ancient machinery. Arinya began to notice more about Elias. He was careful but not cautious to the point of fear. He trusted his own judgment, and yet he adapted constantly to circumstances. A small slip, a shift in the wind, a distant noise, he accounted for all of it. "Look," he said, pointing to the horizon where a metallic glint caught the sun. "That's part of the outpost. It's not far, but it's defended. We'll need to be careful as we approach." It looked abandoned, but she could feel movement, signs of life. Her body tensed. She had survived battles and loss, but entering a human-controlled area was new. She was unprepared for the social uncertainty that came with it. Elias noticed her hesitation. "I know it's daunting," he said softly, "but we stick together, that's what matters." Arinya realized that survival with humans was not just about physical endurance, it was also about trust. And trust, she thought, was a bridge she had never built with anyone outside her species. As they approached the outpost, the wind shifted again. A low hum vibrated through the ground, different from before. Elia's eyes narrowed. "Scavenger drones," he muttered. "They must have detected us. Don't hesitate to follow my steps exactly." The hum of the drones grew louder, metallic wings slicing the air. Arinya felt her pulse spike. One mistake, and she would be destroyed. Elias glanced back, giving her a quick nod of reassurance. Somehow, that small gesture steadied her. They reached a shallow depression in the rocks where they could observe the outpost without being seen. Elias pointed out a narrow path that led to a partially intact hangar bay. "If we can make it there, we'll be safe for the night," he said. Arinya nodded. She felt the first stirrings of determination since her escape from the battlefield. If humans could face danger like this and survive, perhaps she could too. Her own knowledge of alien technology might help them, she realized. Together, they moved toward the hangar. The scavenger drones hovered near the outpost's perimeter, scanning for heat signatures. Elias led with precision, timing their movements perfectly. Arinya's heart raced, but she mirrored his steps as best she could. When they finally reached the hangar bay, Elias set up a temporary shield using portable tech from his pack. The drone's sensors could not penetrate it. Arinya collapsed against the wall, exhausted but alive. Elias crouched beside her. "You did well," he said. "Not many would have made it this far." They made survival possible for others, and they did it with courage and ingenuity. Night fell over Zyphora. Inside the hangar, Elias tended to her leg again, checking the bandages and applying a small amount of nutrient gel. Arinya watched his movements, noting the efficiency and care. He did not just treat wounds, he anticipated needs, adapted to them, and acted without hesitation. "You're stronger than you think," he said. "And you'll be stronger still. By tomorrow, we'll start moving toward the main station. It's safer there." She thought of the sharp eyes, the steady hands, and the quiet determination. Perhaps this strange species could teach her more than survival. Perhaps they could teach her resilience, courage, and trust. And for the first time in many cycles, she dreamed not of battles and loss, but of a future, one where she might walk again, and where humans were not just strange creatures from distant worlds, but allies, teachers, and companions. The hangar was quiet except for the soft hum of the shield generator and the occasional creak of metal as the structure settled. Arinya sat on a crate, her eyes scanning the dim interior. The temporary shelter was small, but it offered safety. For the first time since she had been abandoned, she felt a fragile sense of security. Elias moved efficiently, checking equipment, securing the perimeter, and making small adjustments to the portable shield. Every motion was precise, deliberate. He paused to hand her a small ration of nutrient paste. "Eat," he said. "You need strength. Tomorrow will be a long day." Her own species had relied on advanced technology, but humans could adapt, survive, and thrive even when tools were scarce. Night fell over the outpost. Outside, the wind swept through the ruins, carrying the distant hum of scavenger drones that had not left the area. Elias glanced at Arinya, noting her fatigue. "We'll rest tonight. Tomorrow we move," he said softly. "You'll see, it's safer when you're moving than when you're stuck." Instead, she had found compassion and determination, qualities she had rarely encountered. When sleep finally claimed her, it was uneasy. Her dreams were filled with fire and ruin, echoes of the battle that had destroyed her home. But beneath the fear, a flicker of hope persisted. Humans had shown her that survival was not just a struggle, it could be guided, even nurtured. Dawn came slowly. The first rays of light filtered through the cracked panels of the hangar, painting streaks of gold and silver across the floor. Arinya awoke to find Elias already moving. He was scanning the area with a portable device, checking for drones or other threats. "Morning," he said. "We need to move before the heat rises. It's easier to travel in the early hours." The healing gel had done its work. She could bear her weight, though she still leaned on him for support. Together, they stepped out of the hangar, cautious and deliberate. The outpost was vast, a maze of ruined buildings and twisted metal. Elias led the way, using hand signals and soft whispers. He had a plan, and Arinya followed, learning quickly how humans communicated silently. She had never experienced such subtlety combined with efficiency. Humans were adaptable, resourceful, and capable of acting decisively under pressure. As they moved, a low whine reached their ears. Arinya froze. Elias crouched, scanning the horizon. A swarm of scavenger drones had noticed movement near the outpost's edge. Their metallic wings shimmered in the sunlight, scanning for heat signatures. "Stay close," Elias whispered. "We can't outrun them, but we can outsmart them." They moved between ruins, keeping to shadows and broken walls. Elias' hand guided her, indicating when to move, when to stop, when to crouch. She mirrored his movements, absorbing the rhythm of human strategy. Every instinct told her to panic, but she resisted, trusting the human beside her. The drone's hum grew louder. One hovered dangerously close, scanning the air with sharp sensors. Elias reached into his pack and pulled out a small device, tossing it ahead. It emitted a pulse that disrupted the drone's sensors. The machine faltered, giving them a narrow window to move. "Go," Elias whispered. Arinya moved quickly, her legs trembling, but she kept pace. She realized something profound. Humans did not rely solely on strength. They used intellect, creativity, and timing to survive. Even when outnumbered or outgunned, they found a way. They reached a partially intact hangar bay, the structure offering better cover. Elias quickly set up a temporary barrier using portable tech, blocking the drone's line of sight. Arinya collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily. "You did well," Elias said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Not many would have kept their composure like that." Elias checked the temporary shield, the nutrient packs, and the limited tools they had salvaged. Arinya watched, realizing that humans had an incredible ability to make do with what they had. Every item had a purpose, nothing was wasted. Do you always help strangers?" she asked quietly, curiosity breaking through her fatigue. Elias looked at her, thoughtful. "No," he said. "But I help those who need it, those who can survive if given a chance. Life is worth protecting when you can. You've been through enough, that's why I'm helping you." They acted not because they expected reward, but because it was right. Night fell again, colder and sharper than before. Outside, the drones circled at a distance, waiting, searching. Inside, Elias worked quietly, repairing minor damage to their temporary shelter. Arinya assisted when she could, learning to handle human tools and understanding their logic. She began to see the pattern of human survival. It was not random or instinctual alone. It was calculated, adaptive, and courageous. They faced danger with intelligence and a moral compass that guided their choices. It was strange, alien, and inspiring. A sudden vibration shook the floor. One of the scavenger drones had moved closer than expected. Elias immediately activated the shield, and the machine's sensors were disrupted. The drone hovered for a moment, scanning before moving away. "Every step counts," Elias said. "Even the smallest action can make a difference between life and death. Remember that." They relied on adaptability, quick thinking, and perseverance. She felt a growing admiration, a respect for their ability to turn even the smallest advantage into survival. Hours passed. The night was tense but uneventful. Elias slept in short bursts, always alert to movement outside. Arinya tried to rest, but her mind raced, replaying the events of the day. She realized that she had learned something invaluable. Humans could teach her to survive not only in body, but in mind and spirit. Morning light returned, pale and soft. Elias stirred, already scanning the area. "We move again," he said. "You're stronger today. Let's keep going before the drones regroup." She could walk steadily with Elias' support. She felt capable, not just surviving, but ready to continue. They navigated through the outpost carefully. Elias led with a combination of knowledge, instinct, and caution. Arinya mirrored his steps, learning to anticipate dangers, to act decisively under pressure. She realized that survival with humans was a partnership. It was not just about one person being strong, it was about trust, coordination, and shared determination. As they reached the edge of the outpost, a sudden movement caught their attention. A small scouting group of drones approached, more numerous than before. Elias gestured for Arinya to stay low. He examined the terrain and quickly devised a plan. "Follow my lead," he whispered. "We'll use the old structures. We can confuse them, get past without a fight if we move smartly." They moved as one, slipping between shadows, weaving through broken walls, using every cover available. One drone came close, scanning, its sensors sharp and precise. Elias tossed a small device that emitted a pulse, scrambling its perception. The machine faltered, giving them enough time to pass. They reached a secluded hangar at the far edge of the outpost. Elias quickly set up another temporary barrier, shielding them from detection. Arinya collapsed, exhausted but alive. "You're learning quickly," Elias said. "Humans survive by adapting, by observing, by acting when it matters most. You've got that instinct too, you just need practice." Now she was learning not just to survive, but to thrive, to anticipate, to fight alongside someone who believed in life and in resilience. As night fell once more, Arinya reflected on the day. The humans had taught her something deeper than survival. They had taught her that courage, intelligence, and compassion could change the outcome of impossible situations. She felt a spark of hope for the first time since the battle had taken everything from her. She fell asleep with Elias keeping watch, trusting him as she had never trusted another. Tomorrow, the journey would continue and she would face more danger. But she no longer felt helpless. She had found not just a protector, but a teacher, a guide, and a companion. And in that realization, she understood that humans were more than just strong or clever. They were a force of resilience, hope, and ingenuity. And now, she would face the challenges of Zyphora not alone, but alongside one. The horizon glowed faintly with the first rays of Zyphora's sun, painting the jagged landscape in soft shades of gold and red. Arinya stood beside Elias, her legs aching but steady. She had grown stronger since the first day he had found her, but every movement still carried reminders of her injuries. Despite the pain, she felt a strange excitement. Survival was no longer simply about enduring. It was about learning, adapting, and proving herself. Elias moved confidently ahead, scanning the terrain for dangers. His human instincts were remarkable. He noticed subtle shifts in the ground, distant vibrations, and changes in the wind that might indicate the presence of scavenger drones or other threats. Arinya watched him carefully, noting how humans combined observation, reasoning, and action seamlessly. Each movement had purpose, each decision weighed against risk and opportunity. "Stay close," Elias whispered. "We need to reach the next ridge before the heat rises. It's safer there, and we can get a better view of the route to the main station." Every day, she felt herself becoming not just a survivor, but a participant, someone who could contribute rather than merely follow. The journey was difficult. The terrain was uneven, filled with sharp rocks and scattered debris from the remnants of past battles. Dust swirled in the air, making each step a challenge. Despite this, Elias encouraged her, his voice calm and steady. "One step at a time, focus on what you can control, the rest we handle together. Soon, you won't need me to support you so much." They moved again, descending into a valley where the remains of ancient machinery lay half buried in sand. Elias pointed out the safest path, guiding her carefully. She noticed small details, the way he avoided loose rocks, how he used shadows for cover, and how he constantly adjusted their pace based on her movements. As they progressed, a low hum reached their ears. Arinya froze, recognizing the sound immediately. Scavenger drones. Several of them hovered at a distance, scanning for heat signatures. Her heart raced. She had faced drones before, but never with so many near at once. Elias crouched, motioning for her to do the same. "Stay low," he whispered. "We'll move slowly using cover and timing. Don't make sudden movements." Elias quickly retrieved a small device from his pack, tossing it ahead. It emitted a pulse that disrupted the drone's sensors, causing it to falter. "Now," he whispered. Arinya moved, steadying herself as she followed him to a safe position behind a large piece of wreckage. Her pulse raced, but she felt a surge of pride. She had acted decisively, trusting in his guidance and her growing skills. They continued their journey, eventually reaching a small plateau overlooking a stretch of relatively safe terrain. From this vantage point, Elias scanned the horizon, mapping a route to the main station. He explained his plan carefully, and Arinya listened, absorbing every detail. "You'll help," he said. "Not just follow, I need your perspective, your knowledge. Your species has technology and experience we can use." As they moved again, Elias taught her small techniques for using her knowledge of alien technology. Together, they improvised devices to distract or disable drones, combining human ingenuity with Arinya's understanding of her species' machines. She felt a surge of empowerment, realizing she was no longer helpless. By midday, they reached a sheltered area near a natural cave system. Elias set up a temporary camp, using portable shields and equipment to create a small, safe zone. Arinya rested, tending to her leg while he checked the perimeter. "You've come far in just a few cycles," Elias said. "Humans survive by observing, learning, and adapting. You've done all three. I'm impressed." She had survived alone for so long, yet humans had taught her a new way to endure, not just by strength, but by intelligence, cooperation, and trust. As night fell, the wind howled outside, carrying the distant hum of drones that had not yet left the area. Elias kept watch, moving with quiet precision. Arinya observed him, understanding something profound. Humans face danger not by avoiding it, but by thinking, planning, and acting decisively. Their courage was not reckless. It was deliberate, guided by reason and morality. The night passed slowly. Arinya drifted in and out of sleep, each time waking to find Elias alert, ready, and calm. She felt a strange gratitude, not just for her survival, but for the lessons she was learning. Humans had shown her that life was not merely endured, it could be navigated, improved, and even protected through courage and intelligence. Morning arrived with pale light. Elias stirred, scanning the surrounding terrain. "We move again," he said. "The main station is within reach. It's safer there, and you'll have resources and support." She listened carefully, learning to anticipate threats, understand terrain, and act with precision. Together, they moved like a team, combining human instincts with Arinya's knowledge of alien systems. Suddenly, a movement caught their attention. A small group of scavenger drones approached, more numerous than before. Elias signaled for her to stay low. He assessed the terrain and devised a plan. "Follow my lead," he whispered. "We'll use the environment to confuse them, get past without confrontation if possible." Elias deployed a device that emitted a pulse, scrambling its perception. The drone faltered, giving them enough time to move past. They reached a partially intact structure at the edge of the station. Elias quickly set up a temporary barrier, shielding them from detection. Arinya leaned against a wall, exhausted but alive. "You've adapted well," Elias said. "Humans survive by observing, learning, and acting decisively. You've done all of that today." Night fell again, and Arinya reflected on the day. Humans had shown her that survival was not merely endurance, it was strategy, courage, and cooperation. She felt hope, determination, and a growing sense of self. When she finally slept, Elias kept watch as always. She trusted him completely now. She had learned that humans could teach resilience, not just in body, but in mind and spirit. The journey was far from over, but Arinya knew she would face it differently. No longer abandoned, no longer helpless, she was ready to continue, stronger, wiser, and determined. The sun hung low in Zyphora's sky, casting long shadows across the jagged landscape. Arinya and Elias stood at the edge of the main station, looking out over a barren stretch of plains dotted with ruins and scattered machinery. They had come far, but danger still lurked. The remnants of the interstellar faction that had abandoned Arinya were somewhere in the sector, tracking signals, searching for survivors. Elias scanned the horizon with a handheld device, his brow furrowed. "We're not out of danger yet," he said. "They're looking for alien technology, your technology, and they won't stop until they find it." She had tools, and she had a teacher who believed in her abilities. "We can't hide forever," she said quietly. "We need a plan. If they catch us, we'll have no chance." Humans were not just survivors, they were innovators, thinkers, and planners, and now she was part of that. The first wave of drones arrived in the distance, small, fast, and relentless. They moved with precision, scanning for energy signatures, heat, and movement. Elias crouched beside Arinya, laying out the plan. "We'll split their attention," he said. "I'll lead the main group along the ridge. You use your knowledge of alien tech to create a disruption. It'll confuse their sensors long enough for us to reach the station safely." The drones closed in. Elias moved swiftly, signaling Arinya to follow. She activated a device she had improvised from fragments of alien machinery, sending out pulses that interfered with the drone's sensors. Several machines faltered, colliding with debris and each other. "Now!" Elias shouted, and they sprinted across the plains, leaping over jagged rocks and ducking behind ruins. The drones were momentarily confused, but not for long. Their sensors recalibrated, and the hum of pursuit grew louder. Arinya ran, every step a test of endurance, every breath a reminder of her earlier injuries. But the fear that had once paralyzed her was replaced with focus. She trusted Elias completely, and he trusted her. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. They reached the station's perimeter, a maze of corridors, control rooms, and storage bays. Elias scanned the access points, identifying the safest path. "This way," he whispered. "We can use the maintenance tunnels. They're narrow, but they'll give us cover." She realized how much she had learned from humans: observation, patience, improvisation, and courage. Each lesson gave her strength. Each action reinforced her growing confidence. The first drone appeared at the entrance to the tunnel, sensors scanning. Elias and Arinya froze. He whispered, "Leave it to me," and quickly set a small device on the ground. A pulse emitted from it, causing the drone to spin erratically. Arinya watched in awe. Humans did not rely solely on strength. They relied on ingenuity. They slipped past the drone, moving deeper into the tunnels. The hum of mechanical wings faded behind them, replaced by the quiet rhythm of their footsteps. Arinya felt a sense of exhilaration. Danger was real, but she was no longer powerless. She was part of the solution. As they navigated the labyrinth of tunnels, Elias explained the final phase of the plan. "Once we reach the central hub, we can access the station's systems. I'll reroute power and security protocols. You'll help me create a defensive perimeter. Between your knowledge and our tech, we can hold them off long enough to escape or negotiate." The room was dimly lit, filled with consoles, screens, and the quiet hum of machinery. Elias immediately set to work, typing commands, rerouting power, and establishing defenses. Arinya assisted, connecting alien interfaces to human systems, improvising solutions where necessary. "Perfect," Elias said after a moment. "Now we wait and see how they respond." "Ready?" Elias asked, looking at her. Arinya straightened, placing a hand on one of the alien devices she had integrated into their defenses. "Ready," she replied. The first wave of attackers entered the perimeter. Sensors and improvised devices created false signals, drawing drones into traps. Several drones were disabled instantly, while others collided with debris caused by the interference. The strike team moved carefully, trying to locate the source of the disruption. Elias and Arinya worked together seamlessly. She analyzed energy patterns, predicted enemy movements, and adjusted devices to maximize disruption. Elias coordinated human defenders, issuing precise instructions to minimize risk and maximize effectiveness. Hours passed. The battle was tense, exhausting, but controlled. Arinya marveled at the human's ability to turn adversity into advantage, using strategy, creativity, and moral courage rather than brute force alone. A critical moment arrived when the enemy commander entered the hub. Elias glanced at Arinya. "We can't stop him by force alone," he said. "We need a coordinated strike. Follow my lead." Together, they activated a combination of devices, human tech enhanced with alien knowledge. A pulse surged through the hub, disabling enemy sensors and creating confusion among the attackers. They were disoriented, vulnerable, and the humans struck decisively, neutralizing the threat without unnecessary destruction. The commander fell back, retreating with the remaining forces. Elias and Arinya watched as the enemy withdrew, leaving the station secure. The battle was won, not by overwhelming firepower, but by intelligence, courage, and the willingness to adapt. Arinya sank to a console, exhausted but exhilarated. She realized she had not just survived, she had participated in a victory. Her knowledge, combined with human ingenuity, had made a difference. She felt pride swelling in her chest. Humans had taught her that survival was more than endurance, it was creativity, cooperation, and courage. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did well," he said quietly. "I couldn't have done this without you." She had found humans not just capable of rescuing others, but empowering them, teaching them, and giving them purpose. Over the following cycles, the station was secured, repairs were made, and defenses strengthened. Arinya worked alongside Elias and his crew, learning more about human tactics, culture, and philosophy. Each day reinforced a simple truth: humans were resilient, resourceful, and brave. They faced challenges not because they sought glory, but because they valued life and the potential of those around them. Arinya began to reflect on her own growth. She had started as a wounded, abandoned alien, relying on instinct and survival knowledge alone. Now she was active, confident, and capable. Humans had not just saved her, they had transformed her understanding of resilience, courage, and hope. One evening, as Zyphora's twin moons rose, casting silver light over the station, Arinya and Elias stood together overlooking the plains. The wind carried the faint hum of distant drones, now harmless shadows of the past. "You've changed," Elias said softly. "Not just because of what we've done, but because you chose to adapt, to learn, and to act. You're ready for anything now." Together, they watched the stars appear, scattered across the dark sky like jewels. The battle was over, but the journey continued. Arinya understood that her strength came not only from her own abilities, but from the humans who had taught her to trust, to fight wisely, and to believe in life even in the harshest conditions. And in that moment, she knew she was home, not because of a planet or a civilization or even safety, but because she had found allies, teachers, and friends. She had found humans, and with them she would face any challenge the universe could send, unafraid, strong, and ready.